So I'm gonna sit back around.
You're gonna sit down there?
Yeah. What happened to Henry? We lose her?
She's talking.
Again?
Again?
I don't know why you asked. Because I'm stupid. How do you prepare for this? Something's wrong if you need to.
I was looking.
Oh, me either. That makes me mad.
Hey, how do y'all? You told her how to stop?
I'm not telling you. You know if she calls me, you have to stop.
You think the seat is too?
You want me?
My back is like a third of the audience.
Well, you just turn around the way you feel.
If they care, I really would like to be more open.
No, because the feeling
You want to sit
I
up?
know, but still,
And they didn't want to look at you. That's why they turned the chair up.
I'm sorry for that.
Henry,
is going to be.
those people want to see you.
Well, welcome to Wofford College. This evening, we're all glad you're here as we continue our Candid Conversations series tonight with South Carolina's own sister senators. In this series, we hosted Representative James Clyber and Trey Gowdy and Ari Sellers shared the stage to moderate a discussion that featured perspectives from both sides of the political aisle. And the goal tonight is to foster respectful dialogue and share important information on the issues that touch us today. And at Wofford College, we always have been and always will be committed to academic freedom and civil discourse consistent with our mission and core values. The free exchange of ideas without fear of reprimand or reprisal is the foundation of a transformative liberal arts educational experience and the foundation is a vibrant democracy. And it has been our tradition here at Wofford College since 1854 to celebrate that fundamental principle. We are a place where thought leads, where our community engages in dialogue and discussion with respect and civility and dignity, and that continues tonight. Now, please join me in welcoming Susan Johnson, a Congress College graduate and founder and supporter of BEC Academy here in Spartanburg. She has served her community, our community, in every way imaginable. As an educator, elected official, philanthropist, wife, and mother. Few things escape the notice, her keen wit, exists to make our community a better place to live and work. And I'm honored to call her a friend. Susan.
I told him to have a very short introduction, so when he said my name, I got it come up. I went on a little long. I have many pages though, and I'll try to be brief. In 1920, in 1920, the U.S. Congress ratified the 19th Amendment, which allowed women to have the right to vote. South Carolina did not ratify this amendment until 1969, and it wasn't written into state law until 1973. So we were a little slow. And women, who make up 13% of our legislatures, put South Carolina 49th in the United States for representation of women, just ahead of West Virginia, it's 50. Today, out of 124 members in the State House, 100, and of those 124 members, 21 are women. In the Senate, 2 out of the 46 members are women. These numbers, let's be honest, are not pretty. It isn't a partisan issue. It's beyond partisanship. This is so much more because it is an issue for all if we are to remain a united republic. Over the last year, we lost a shocking 4 women in the Senate, including 3 who are here with us. This is dangerous. Tonight, we'll hear about their experiences and how this happened. I have a lot of pages because I have to have big print. These women who fought for their communities at their own peril. They crossed party lines to stand up for women, and we must continue to carry the torch forward on every level of government in the state. Women make up over 50% of our population, and we must work to increase the number in both state and local governments. To kick off tonight's discussion, I'm privileged to introduce our esteemed moderator, the Honorable former South Carolina House Representative Rita Allison. Rita's first election was to the District 5 School Board, and she's gone on from there. In 1993, she was elected to the House of Representatives and served until 2002. She was then re-elected and served again from 2008 to 2022. She's had a lot of years in the House. She served on the House Ways and Means Committee and chaired the K-12 and Special Needs Subcommittee, served as Vice Chair for Joint Legislative Committee for Families and Children, chaired the South Carolina General Assembly's Women's Caucus, chaired the Spartanburg County Legislative Delegation. She was also named Outstanding South Carolina PTA President and is an active board member of the Middle Tiger River Community Center in Lyman and the Vern Smith Human Resource Center in Greer. She served as a board member on the R.D. Anderson Vocational School, on the Commission for the Blind Foundation, on First Steps, and on the board of Senior Centers. Since January 2023, Rita has served as the governor's appointee to the South Carolina Board of Education. I could go on and on. There are a lot more to put on this list, but the point I make is wherever it is that she shows up, asks the hard questions, and gets things done. Representative Allison, thank you for showing up here tonight for us. You have meant so much to us in South Carolina and our shared community. So I present to you, engaged citizens, another engaged citizen, and my friend, Rita Addison.
You know, when you listen to your biography over the years, and I'm getting a little age on me, you really just sit here and age listening to
For being here tonight. What a great crowd, and we're just so blessed to have all of you here at this wonderful institution of higher education, Wofford. And I want to thank our president for being here. And I want to ask all of our former elected officials or officials that are elected right now serving, please stand up. I saw the mayor here. Stand up. So many faces out there that serve every day for our county and our state, and we thank you for that. We're excited tonight to have these three ladies. There are 5 of them. One is sick and one is traveling, so you are in for a great treat. As was mentioned, I was elected to the House in 1993, and in 94 there were 21 women in the General Assembly. 3 of those were in the Senate at the time. You know, true democratic representation is built on the principle that government should reflect the population that it serves. Today, with women making up half the population in this United States and over half in many of our states, there is unrepresentation at the levels for a democratic deficit. This trend should really stop, because when women aren't at the table, their distinct life experiences that shape their approach to leadership and policy finds government lacking these perspectives and is less effective. So tonight, we are going to learn from 3 incredible women that I've had the honor of serving with over these years in the State House. We have 3 of our sister South Carolina sister senators, and they are the recipient of the prestigious J.F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award, and they are joining us tonight. So we're going to start with a big round of applause. I'm going to introduce them to you and tell you a little something about them, and you can hold your applause at this part. First of all, to my left is Senator Katrina Shealy, Republican. Katrina Shealy is from Lexington, South Carolina, and she served District 23 in the South Carolina State Senate from 2012 until 2024. She is the only woman in the history of the South Carolina Senate to chair a committee overseeing the Committee on Children and Veteran Services. She is currently a community liaison for the University of South Carolina Brain Health Center, which keeps her very busy. And then in your spare time, you spend time with your husband, Jimmy, and caring for her 2 dogs and your donkeys too, right?
Eight donkeys.
Got some donkeys. Next to her is Senator Margie Bright Matthews, our Democrat. Margie Bright Matthews is from Walterboro, South Carolina, and she was elected to the South Carolina Senate in 2015 after the brutal murder of her friend, Senator Clemente. Great, he was. A lawyer with a busy law practice, Senator Bright Matthews represents District 45, which includes Beaufort and Charleston and Colleton and Hampton and Jasper counties. She and her husband, Patrick, have 4 daughters, and do I understand 4 grandchildren? 4. Wonderful. Senator Mia McLeod could not be with us tonight because she is under the weather, but has done a wonderful job in representing this great effort by these women. Senator Henry Gustafson. I never could pronounce that.
Close enough.
Never could pronounce that. She is a Republican. She was elected to the South Carolina Senate in 2020 and served until 2024, serving District 27, which includes Kershaw, Chesterfield, and Lancaster. She is a graduate of Newberry College and lives with her husband Todd and her dog Jack in Camden. Good people always have dogs, don't they? So you can tell they all have dogs. She is, Jack is in Camden and they have 3 children. She is very active in the arts community in Camden and in the Midlands, most recently performing in The Little Mermaid at the Town Theater. And I'm sure that was great. That was great. We are also sadly missing Senator Sandy Sin tonight, also a Republican who could not join us because she's traveling. Now, ladies, we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of why we are here and why we applaud the effort that you have. What is it like being the only woman in such a powerful body, making such powerful decisions? And how often would you say that you were the only woman in the room? I know that Senator Shealy was the only woman when she was elected in 2012. So how does it feel?
I've got to tell you, when I was elected, you know, I really worked hard to get elected because I was elected under really crazy circumstances. I ran as a petition candidate after my opposition had me kicked off the ballot. So nobody really thought I was going to win. So when I won, I thought, well, now what have I done? So I get there, and when it's you and 45 men, it's a funny feeling. And I have never been in elected office before. So you go straight into the Senate, and there you are. And they couldn't remember I was there because, you know, they would gavel in, and the Senate's very formal, and they come in with the sword, and they didn't know I was there because they would say, "Gentlemen of the Senate, please rise." And I would think, well, now am I supposed to get up? But, you know, it was a good feeling because I felt like I had really accomplished something, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do because, you know, Republicans always run on a platform of lower taxes, fix the roads, and all these things. Well, there were 45 other people in there that ran on that same thing, but there was nobody in there that ran on the platform of helping women and children and families and veterans. And I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. And so I grabbed that up and I ran with it. And that's what I decided I was going to do.
And thank heavens you ended up chairing that committee. Great. And did wonderful, wonderful work. Henry, how did it feel when you came in? Because you came in a little later, didn't you?
I did. I am the baby of the group, so to speak, because I was the last elected of the sister senators. I won an election that wasn't supposed to be won. It was very much uphill, and I don't think I was necessarily the popular pick because I kind of came out of nowhere. And beat a long-standing incumbent, Democratic incumbent, and it was daunting because everyone knew this man. Everybody, you know, Republicans and Democrats alike. So coming in cold and green, there was a lot to learn very quickly. So I kind of knew from the get-go I was going to have to be very proactive in everything because I wasn't included in any conversations. My delegations did not include me. They did not want to have meetings. They refused to have meetings. And so I just talked to people in the know. I talked to Senator Katrina Shealy and Senator Bright Matthews and other people who've been there who knew things and they could help guide me a little bit. So, it was a lot to do, and you just, when you get in that moment, you just have to step into it. Okay, I'm here, I'm all in. And so that's kind of how I felt. And whether I felt uncomfortable, I mean, if you don't know about bourbon in the Senate, you can't join a man's conversation, it seems like. But it seemed like I'm not kidding. I mean, like, I would walk up to a group Anyway, that probably isn't the best example, but they know who I'm talking about.
Will,
I learned about bourbon so I can enjoy conversations.
there you go. She's the one that knows all about bourbon. Okay.
I don't
Senator Matthews, how was it with you?
Well, most of you know that I replaced Senator Clemente Pinckney, who was brutally murdered, or I call it assassinated at Mother Emanuel. So I came in, I felt, with an incredible weight on my shoulder. First, to do right by him in his memory. And oftentimes I tell people I still feel him guiding some of how I respond to people and how I treat people. And I think anyone who served in the Senate or in the House, because he served in both, knew him to be an humble soul
Yes.
that got along with everybody, regardless of whether you were a Democrat or a Republican. And he saw people's soul. And it's not only because of that, I wanted to make sure that I uphold his legacy in taking care of people as it relates to all of the issues that were important to him. But as far as going back to your question on how it felt being in that chamber, I'm a trial attorney. I've been practicing since 1989. I know I'm aging myself. And so I was used to being in Colleton County, being the only woman in the room. That's where I was able to pick up some of the things to make myself cool to my husband. I got every gift from all the men in the courtroom, us lawyers. But as far as coming into the Senate, you don't know what it felt like, because we were still raw in this state.
Right.
In October. Clemente was killed in
Yes.
June. I was elected in October. I was sworn in. And the first person who came to hug me and put a bedazzled Senate pin on me was this lady here. It wasn't because she was a Republican. It wasn't because she wanted to be a Democrat, because she wasn't. She was a Republican. She came to me as a woman. And from there, we stood together. And it was never about, at least we had somebody to talk to that knew that we were still handling a house as well as taking care of things in the Senate.
Which brings me to the fact that in today's atmosphere, where parties are divided with each other and that kind of thing, how do you survive and you are one of two left in the Senate out of you 5. There is one other woman, Democrat, that is in the Senate with you. But how do you survive in that kind of atmosphere? Now, I know that because you're up against the male portion in the courtroom all the time, you have that. But Henry and, of course, I know both of these ladies, and they don't sit back at all, so I can say that. But how do you survive in what people consider elected, that it is, and pardon me, men, but it's a man's world out there when it comes to the political scene? How have you survived in that?
Is that to me? It's difficult this year. The camaraderie, and I heard, I believe Susu say, the respectful interplay of political discourse. That was there when I got there. If you recall, the Republicans and Democrats got together to bring down the Confederate flag. It was there. It has eroded to a point where it's so vitriolic, it's mean, and some of the people, it's unfortunate that we rely so much on digital media. And you know what digital media does? Sometimes people say things, it's like they're on a steroid mean pill behind the keyboard. And so when they say these things that basically are polarizing to Republicans and Democrats on any particular issue, they find when they walk in the chamber and have to look you in the face, they can't really look you in the face and be their selves. And so we've got to, I don't know what the answer is, because it doesn't help either side if we continue failing to communicate. Because if I've heard you say something bad about a Republican or a Democratic senator or House member and disrespectful, I'm not likely going to sit in the cookie room with you and have cookie and coffee
Absolutely.
about anything.
Which brings me to the fact that you all have worked together to pass legislation. Some that has been tremendously hard on you, controversial, and that kind of thing. Senator Shealy, how did you all form the bond to get it together?
Well, people think that we only got together just because of the abortion legislation. But we were together before abortion, and we were together after abortion on other things. But I think the abortion bill, there was so much going on with that, and there were things, we don't agree on everything. We didn't agree on what was going on there, but we knew what was going on was not right. We knew that what was happening was so wrong and so against what we believe, and what the majority of South Carolina believes, regardless of what you hear. 63% of South Carolinians do not agree with what the law is, regardless of what the legislature says. So we knew it was wrong, and we knew that we had to speak up, regardless of what it cost, regardless of what it cost us, regardless of what it was going to cost our political future. I didn't get elected to get reelected. I got elected to do what was right. And what was right, is to stand up and say, it's time for the people of South Carolina to look out after each other. We can't look out after women and children to take away their health care, and, just because you've got enough money, you can go someplace else, or because you're a man, you can tell me you know more about my body than I do. And let me tell you, we heard so many things in that chamber that just were not true, that we decided it's time for us to say something. And I think at one of our meetings, we said, we've sat back long enough, and I'm talking too much. We've sat back long enough, and we've listened to these men tell us about our bodies, that it's time for us to stand up and tell the truth. And when we started, we didn't know when to shut up. And we're not stopping now, because we know what's coming this week, and we've got to keep going.
Right, we know that October the 1st, which is
Day after
tomorrow, there will be an all-consuming bill on the ban of abortion in this state. Henry, how did you all brainstorm? It's when I think about Republican, Democrats sitting down and brainstorming together over a highly controversial subject. How did you all do that?
Well, I think we would all agree it was an evolving conversation. It really just evolved and blew up. We knew things were going to be tough when Roe versus Wade was overturned, and we were pulled back into special sessions, which we did not want to do. We did not feel like it was an urgent matter. But talking through things, and as far as like speaking on the floor and what we chose to discuss with them well, we did have our own individual perspectives, and I felt it was important, and that we all kind of come from a different angle, and to kind of show a broad range of perspectives about different things. One of the things I did specifically was to get fatal fetal anomaly in that bill. Before I brought it up, it was not even considered as an exception, and that was ended up being an exception, and it needs to stay. They want to remove that, of course, with this S323. But so talking about, for example, Senator Manning Cloud is not here tonight. She has had, and this is public, so I'm not revealing anything, but she had experienced a rape in her life. So she could speak to that directly. You know, Senator Shealy has all this experience leading the children's, the Family and Armed Services Committee. For me, what I chose to talk about was the true biology of pregnancy, like what it really is, because it seems to be very simplified in the public eye with our legislators. Like, oh, you just have a baby. Like, no, you don't just have the baby, and this is what happens. So, I use words that have never been used in the Senate before, which were biologically, factually based. I will not read them here because I respect this college too much.
So
But,
you had to do all of
But
your
I did.
homework too.
And so I presented it that way, and nobody else spoke on that particular thing. But it wasn't like we sat down and said, you do this, you do this, you do this. We had spoken so much amongst ourselves. We knew where each other stood on various topics. I'm not going to talk so much from a legal perspective because I'm not a lawyer, for example.
But did you meet and brainstorm?
We talked a lot.
And what about other subjects? I know that you all brainstormed on other subjects.
We certainly did.
Yeah. If you want to.
A lot of people don't realize it, but some of the changes that came about with DSS and children and adoption and all of that, we talked about those issues. And particularly after this, I was mortified on a committee that I was on that 2 years prior to this, it came from the House. Rita, when you were there, we wanted to have feminine products. And how dare they call it the tampon bill? And yes, we wanted to have feminine products tax-free for women. It stalled for 2 years. And then I sat on a subcommittee and my mouth just dropped open because they passed it really quick. Guess what they passed? We're tax-free for you having to pay golfing dues. I said, are y'all kidding me? Are y'all really serious about this? If you can golfing is a hobby or a sport. Women have to use feminine products. And they just gave me a blank look. So that year, and Katrina and we look across the chamber, and I blocked it. I blocked it, and I kept blocking it. And we were into the last week of session, and Senator Shealy and they can tell you that the last week of session, everything speeds up. Do you know the feminine products tax-free bill was still in subcommittee? They would not even bring it out. It had been there for 2 years. And so I sat there and they kept coming. They sent people from all of my counties to come and tell me, you gotta take your name off this bill. I said, I'm not. And I wouldn't tell them what they could do in exchange. Then all of a sudden, somehow they figured out that they needed to pull that bill out. I told them, you can sing Jesus to me, and I'm not taking my name off that bill. And finally, Katrina and I started smiling. They drafted up something and they pulled the bill out without having a hearing. And then they said, well, let's go ahead and at least vote on it first. We have first and second and third on it. And so Katrina came and said, even if they do first, don't give them the golf bill because they may not give it a second. So that's how we
So the
work.
golf bill didn't get passed.
The golf bill got passed the last hour of session, but it wasn't until we got a clean feminine products bill.
And those are the things that we see and hear about that go on. What were some of the other things that you all brainstormed about? I know.
I wanted to talk about this because all of us are different.
Right.
All 5 of us are different. We come from different backgrounds. That's what made us cohesive. Senator Shealy and Senator Gustafson, I can't see it either. Too many syllables. But anyway, they all agreed. They all agreed with certain weeks.
Right.
Some said 6 weeks. Now, mind you, I've been dealing with some form of abortion bill for 10 years that I've been there. But some say 10 weeks. One of the sisters even suggested 12 weeks. What we all do agree on, we agree that when a man stands in the committee, sits in the committee and says, we're sick of South Carolina women using abortion as a form of birth control. That's what we agree on, that is bull. And we are going to fight back on that because South Carolina women are better than that. I agree on viability. I still am with Roe versus Wade. I believe that if a woman, if the birth is not viable, then it should be up to the woman and her doctor. And I'm gonna stay there. We don't agree on those. They have differing opinions, and that's what we should have. What I don't like is the narrative of men always bringing it up without coming to us. Do you know, Rita, that we were in a medical affairs committee meeting dealing with this abortion issue, and it came up with, they said, oh, it's 6 weeks because a woman's gotta know she's pregnant within 6 weeks. And so I said the
No,
word.
no, at conception.
That's the new
On
thing.
the floor
The
during
new
debate.
thing now is conception, but we were talking about the 6 week bill. And I said, but often you don't have a menstrual cycle. Not all women, did you know not all women have menstrual cycle? They said, don't say that. We're talking about babies. You were talking about my vagina and you don't want to talk about a menstrual cycle? That's the idiocracy that we have to deal with on this issue. Absolutely. With men. They are afraid of words like that. I think that's why they didn't pass the tampon bill, because they were afraid to say the word. It's not dirty.
Yeah. Understand perfectly. I know that you're left with another colleague in the House, but 24 was a bad situation for all of you when it came to being reelected and going out on the campaign trail. I know it's hard enough for a woman on a campaign trail, but for you all, it was not good at all. Share some of the things that caused that. Do you feel like that one coming together to do something for the state of South Carolina and the women in South Carolina is what beat you?
Well,
Yes, go
I'll
ahead.
answer this first. When we came to do the final vote as Rule 74, it was about an hour before we actually ended up doing the vote. And someone sent me a note into the chamber asking to speak to me urgently. And it was someone who had helped me on my 2018 campaign for the House. And he remained what now?
For the houses.
When I ran for the House in 2018,
Oh, okay.
he helped me then, but he was not my consultant this time. But anyway, he pulled me, it was from him, and I went out the chamber hallway, and he said, you need to really understand, you've got to understand this. If you vote no, this could be the end of the political career for her. Because I can't, there's no way to sell this to the Republican Party. There's no way. If you vote no, this could be it, and you need to understand that immediate consequence, and that it most likely will be. And I'm like Katrina. I wasn't elected to get reelected. I was there to make the best decisions possible based on what I know to be factual and true, and also theologically sound. And I felt that the bill had too much hurtful stuff in it, and 6 weeks was enough, and we put our foot down. We sent a bill over to the House, and Senator Shannon will tell you this. She said, if you change one period or semicolon, we will not support it. Do not change it. And what did they do? They sent it back to us with a bunch of whereas clauses that weren't there. They cut a whole bunch of stuff out. They added definitions, and they changed it. So yeah, I was a no. And I was the only one of the sister senators who actually voted yes for it originally before it was sent to Senate. But when it came back, I was pretty much targeted for a very long time, even before that, but that was the secret sauce that put me under. And it was the one thing that every Republican in my area was able to run against me. And that was it. That was the only, it didn't matter if I had a conservative record. It didn't matter if I passed very physical conservative bills or brought money back to my district or, helped fund fire departments or open a new tech school. That didn't matter. The only thing that mattered in the Republican Party was abortion. And it still is the most decisive subject in the Republican Party. It is the thing that is dividing us within our own party. So what y'all heard is all true and probably a lot worse behind the scenes. But yeah, there's no way I was going to get reelected after voting no against S 474, but I would do it again.
But Margie? Ladies, how do we fix this? What needs to change in society? What does society need to know about the fact that good legislation begins when people sit at a table and work together? You may not always get what you want, and the other person may not get what they want totally. But somewhere in between, there is something good that can work for society. How do we fix that?
Somebody has to take the leadership to start communicating across the political spectrum. I noticed one thing: the older senators, Republicans and Democrats that sit on the front row of the Senate, they are all still friends. They still talk. Republicans and senators and Democrats, it doesn't matter. But I have seen this new crowd. It wasn't there when I got there because you're one of the first people I met and we became friends, and I'm a Democrat, you were a Republican. It didn't matter. It's this new wave of folks that are coming in. It's like they're fighting not only with you as a person from another party, but the Republicans are fighting within. There's no communication within. And the only way it's going to be fixed is we have to have some firm leadership from the senior members of both parties.
Can I answer that as well?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Here's my take on the
Okay.
whole thing. I think for 10 years, well, 12 years, I was in the legislature for 12 years. Every year I passed more legislation than anybody else. I was voted one of the most effective legislators in the state of South Carolina. The last year, abortion was the only thing that they had against me. And I had billboards put up in my district that said Katrina Shealy is a baby killer. And let me tell you, that's all they had, because I saved more babies' lives. I helped DSS, DJJ, all the things. And I'm not sure if Henry said it or Margie, but abortion is all that matters in the Republican Party. And until the Republican Party wakes up and realizes that people in the state of South Carolina, that's not the only thing that matters. What matters is jobs, health care, real people in society, the cost of groceries, the cost of make a living. When people realize that, that's when things will change. And I don't know what happened, why it happened. Who did we start electing that made people change? And I can tell you, we've got some people in I don't care who knows how I feel about this, but, we say I'm a Republican, and I grew up a Ronald Reagan, George Bush fighting Republican. But I can't say that anymore because I don't agree with what we're doing to society right now. We're fighting with each other. is the same kind of Republican I am. And there are very few of us left. And we have torn our party apart. The Democrats do it too. But there's not enough of them to matter anymore. They don't have enough. Seriously, in the Senate, there are 46 senators. 34 of them are Republicans. If you got every Democrat to vote on something, it wouldn't make a hill of beans, because they can't override this unsupermajority, because that supermajority is part Freedom Caucus, part moderate Republicans, and part that used to be Democrats. So nobody makes a difference anymore. So until we, the collective citizens of the state of South Carolina, go to the polls and vote, it's not going to matter. 3% of the population voted in my election. I had a poll that said I was winning by 70%. Well, that was a poor showing for 70% when 3% of the people show up. And that was the 3% that said I was a baby killer. So,
Yeah, and.
I'm sorry, I'm through.
No, but that, she's passionate and was passionate that way the whole time of getting things done. And talking about the percentage, 11% in Spartanburg County on a major, 11%. That breaks my heart to think. And the other portion probably votes of what they're told as opposed to what they really know. How do we address this? And especially as women, because women do bring something to the table that a male is not going to bring to the table. The education, not that men don't care, but I would say 2/3 of what you all have brought in the Senate and in the House over the years have been for our children, our health, all of those things that really matter to the people out there that are going to work every day and trying to raise a family or run a business. How do we change?
Rita, that's the 100,000, well, I guess it's 100 million these days. Used to be $100,000 question. That is the question. How do we get to folks? Because dark money is in the state.
Sure.
And dark money is pushing the narrative of the issues that don't really matter to South Carolina. They're pushing their abortion issue. They're pushing the divisiveness and hatred of one party versus another one. They're pushing the narrative that all white people belong in the Republican Party or all black people belong in the. They're pushing really divisive things. And I think we as South Carolinians have to figure out a way that we can stop these algorithms from infecting our political spectrum, because that's what's really happening here. They're pushing things on social media that makes us not trust Democrats, that makes us not trust Republicans, and for God's sakes, it makes fighting with both parties. So what are we going to do? It starts with education.
True.
Everything that's on social media is not real. Isn't that a funny thing? Russia, Korea, North Korea, and China, they have pushed these social media platforms to make us further be divided. When are we going to come together?
Absolutely. Coming together. Henry, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. Why
am I surprised?
We gotta start.
Earlier this evening, I was speaking with the student body officers of our college. And the one question they asked me is, why did you run for office? People want to know that, and we all have different stories. Very briefly, I got first ran for office to bring back stability and homelessness in public office. That was it. And I stayed involved for the same reason. Now, you asked the question, what can we do? Because I was very frustrated when I lost my primary and knew I could not return to the Senate. What would I do? So I returned to my roots and doing things I've always done in my community and You didn't mention it in the bio, but one thing I did this year along with 5 other Republican women, and 2 of them are here tonight. One of them helped get elected, the other one also helped get elected. So I just want to mention they're here. But we wrote, coordinated, and developed a civics education class this year for Kershaw County. And I led that to promote basic civic education and civil engagement. People do not know how to go to a town council meeting and speak, or what to say, or how to say it, or how to reach our legislators. And just about local government in general, who does what. And it was a completely nonpartisan adventure and open to the public. And it was our first workshop. We just got through doing that. So I think for me personally, I have to stay engaged somehow. And I will talk to women. We need more women. I will talk to anybody who's thinking about running for office, or anybody who is running for office, whether Democrat or Republican. I'm happy to have a conversation with you about how to best attain those goals and mentor other women. But it takes so much more than that. It takes money, and I hate to say it because I hate when it comes out of my mouth, but it takes commitment. A group of women running. I had a whole bunch of women behind me. Where were the men? They were cowards. The men who supported me quietly were cowards because I could have won, I think. So we have to support.
Get out and vote.
We have to support good candidates, and for me, I continue to visit Women Leadership and other organizations in South Carolina. When I'm asked coming here tonight, I feel like it's meeting that little tiny need. And I continue to be positive, a reinforcer, leader in the community, and focus on that.
Inspiring people, inspiring other women.
I feel like it's my calling, whether I'm in the Senate or not.
Right.
So, but finding those ways to do it and making that effort and being proactive, it's worth it, because that positivity is contagious. Just like the negativity is contagious, like a virus. If you're positive and this is what you're focused on, your common ground, which is basically what the sister senators did.
Yes,
We focus on our common ground and work from there. That's what politicians used to do. Now it's not. But finding that common ground is so important. I'm sorry, I have to talk about the civics education.
That is so true, and thank you for continuing that. And speaking of our Walford students, we have time for one or two or three questions from you tonight. So I hope you've been listening. You are our future, and we know that the future is bright. And talking with many of you as we were having our brief time together earlier, it does your heart good to know that young people are there and that they're engaged in doing this. Yeah, come over here so we can see you. This is one little gentleman with a lot of girls that are in his. I found that out early.
Some of you may not know, I think some notes on this topic. First off, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Our college and our community are truly fortunate to welcome such wise and powerful women from our state senate. Before I get to my question, I'd like to briefly acknowledge some of the women who have inspired me. First, my mother is currently working, this is year 22 for her as a public education teacher. Three other brothers, and she's raised us to learn and understand the value of service, persistence, and respect, especially to women. She's my greatest example of leadership. And then I'm also proud, like you guys have mentioned, to serve with our executive and community cabinet. Leaders on our campus, and I'm just so glad I get to work with them every single day. So my question to you all is, as women who are working across party lines, both by partisanship and effective government, what advice do you give to young leaders, like you and I, on how we can continue to lead with the kind of inclusive and cooperative spirit we're modeling in the city?
Okay, who wants to take that first?
I say, first thing that comes to mind, and I want to say this before we start talking. Thank you so much for all of you coming out and welcoming us. When I'm from the Low Country, I said, we're going to Spartanburg, the Bible Belt. There'll be 30 people there. So
You don't know our
It's good to see all of you here. The first thing I can tell you as young folks, we need your energy. We need your innovativeness. We need your leadership on this issue that I keep talking about, the divisiveness. We need you to step away from the digital aspects of meanness or giving your opinion all the time and step into what we talk about. Step into civics life. Come and talk to us. Everything that you see bad about someone online, you don't need to respond to it.
Please don't.
I think that is what has attributed to these recent deaths, is some of the stuff that, so I'm telling you folks, you young folks, we gotta figure out a way, and I think Wofford can do it, figure out a way to break the algorithms, those mean algorithms out there. And then figure out a way that you can become involved with us, because we need your new and innovative ways. Thank you.
And I want to say to you that it takes a strong man leader, to have all of those young ladies serving with you. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. How would you guys decide to balance your political life along with your own life and your
Yeah.
Balance it.
How do you balance your political and your
I want to
private
say
life?
this, anyone who really wants to do something will figure out how to do it. You have the will to do it, you do it. And women are famous for that. You're already done. But balancing for me, after your children through all college, I was able to devote 100% of my time. I consider myself full-time legislator, but I got very, very part-time pay. But it's very, I would say this, you guys think about going to politics, to keep your primary relationship centered. And don't ever let politics, don't ever let, that time away from that special person for that relationship, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It wasn't worth having a heart condition. I had to have blood pressure for meds in the last 2 years of the Senate. So check out. And you gotta take care of those relationships first. You do have to have a balance. You can't. I was all in, but I knew that in the day who was the most important priority, what were my priorities, and say true to yourself. So you need to do that, because politics, there's much more to life than that.
Katrina, how did you balance yours? Because I know that during that time, and I think it's public knowledge, you had a husband who was sick. You had a farm with all those donkeys to take care of.
I do. I have a little different story. My first comment is, nobody ever asks a man, how does he balance his business? But, I've always had a job, and I have a husband who has Alzheimer's. He's had it for 11 years now, and but I've managed to take care of him, and he was so proud of me being in politics. He loved to tell people that, so we wouldn't want to take that away from him. And so he's still proud of it. He doesn't know I lost. So that works out. But, you know, I think you do the things you're called to do. I think God knew when to put me in, and he knew when to take me out. And I think that I did what I needed to do while I was in there. But I think that you go in with a positive attitude and you work really hard and you get things done. I worked probably harder than anybody I knew when I was in the Senate. I was there way too much, and I worked all the time, and I still did my job. And, you know, I came home and I fed 8 donkeys and 2 dogs, and I took care of my husband. My husband just went in memory care last year, and by the way, he's doing really well. Everybody in the memory care has COVID but him. And so undoubtedly God's looking out for us, but I do want y'all to start asking all those 40 some odd men, how did they manage their job in politics? Because their wife's doing everything at home is happening. But anyway.
Do we have time for one more question from our students?
I think we're gonna have to move on.
Okay.
We'll get an answer for you, okay?
Are they going to answer from upstairs?
Yes, so, I want y'all, hey everyone.
We'll move.
My name is Catherine Harvey, thank you for being here tonight. I want to acknowledge that we are here to support the phenomenal documentary that is being produced right now by Emily Carroll, who is behind the camera yet again. Because they documented this entire process that they went through. And in the state of South Carolina, there's nothing more important right now than telling our stories on our terms. So everybody got a piece of paper tonight and they walked in. This is how you can support these incredible women right now. And we're gonna let them start to exit the stage as we love the documentary. So I just want to take a moment for all of us to say thank you. Thank you. We have to make sure that we are continuing to support, protect, and propel women in politics and in leadership forward. It's never been more critical than it is right now. And I'm going to leave you with this before we watch this trailer. You have local races in Spartanburg County from Senate to school board this year. You have more political activity than we have seen in a long time. And there are women running up and down your ballots. So please pay attention. Please pay attention. Because when we take our eye off the prize, this happens. And all I think about, without Senator Shealy down there at the State House, who is fighting for our women and children?
Of our community. And our government needs to start looking like it, and they need to start serving like it.
Since the Supreme Court overturned